Iowa State University make a study about all this because it's really fascinating to me. And speaking about languages, as we know, when a child is born, and we're assuming that the child has normal intelligence, et cetera, the brain is like a computer, and you can put anything into it, of course. And the reason that children, as I'm sure all of you know, learn languages faster than adults is because of the ear and the functioning of the muscles that produce the sounds. When people come to Europe, Americans come to Europe, I noticed this way back in 1965, even though went over in 64. When Americans would come over and they'd sing in the opera houses and they had children like 5, 6 years of age, the children picked up German just like that. Why? Because the muscles had and the ears hadn't become conditioned to only one sound and certain movements to produce these. So a child, I read a wonderful book by Glenn Doman. You've heard of the Glenn Doman School in Philadelphia, perhaps. He's worked with children, handicapped children, and then normal children, etc. In his book that I read, he proved that a child can learn 7 languages simultaneously if the child is subjected to the languages at the same time. And it's absolutely true. As you know, so much of history, I'm talking now about 1,000, 2,000 years ago, it's not exactly the same thing with it, but a lot of it was oral because they didn't write. That's why we had paintings, as I'm sure all of you know, and things on walls and in caves. People, even from a religious point of view, so much of the communication was done through paintings and through sculpturing. And so this is somewhat related, I think, to what you were saying, that from the oral aspect, that they can speak 5 languages or learn 5 languages simultaneously. But the ears have not been conditioned to maybe just one sound. But if you think, though, many people in South Africa, as you say, most of them speak more than one language, that's for sure. Whether it is English or Zulu or Xhosa or whatever, but their ears are still capable of producing other sounds because these people, I said before, as you know, they have a very open sound like the Italian vowel sounds, but they can also learn German just like that too, which is very fascinating. Yes.
Process question. Are you doing the Brahms in German or English, and why?
We're going to do it in Swahili because no, we're going to do it in German. And why don't I let Bob tell you why? Bob, tell him why we're doing it in German.
Boy,
I know it
we,
was written.
we went through a lot of pain about this. In fact, when Mr. Estes was here for his first visit, we were right on the cusp of making this decision because it's a lot more work, particularly for the less experienced students, to learn this great work in German for all the reasons that are obvious. And it kind of came down to trying to understand really, but you always try to understand what would Brahms have wanted. We know that he wanted the audience to feel how the music expresses the text. It's really important. So clearly, it would have been easier for people to learn it in English and for the audience to hear the words in English. But another problem is that the piece just doesn't sound the same way in our language. And the translations, no matter how literally perfect they might be and beautiful, you know, the Psalms of David from the Bible, some of the most beautiful poetry ever written, inspired all the great composers. But the sound of the language is different, and Brahms conceived of the musical sounds in his own language. And when you translate it, bumps and smooth points in has been, before his death, was actually creating a brand new, but he didn't finish it, as I
He was
understand.
redoing it, huh?
Yeah. And it's clear that he was troubled by this question for a long time.
You see, there are a lot of operas, as you know. Most operas are written in languages other than English. But a composer wrote for a certain sound at a certain, even on a note, sometimes he wanted a certain sound there. And fortunately, we do have libretti. You know, you can get a libretto to read what it's about, and we have subtitles a lot today. And they even have subtitles in Europe, just to let you know now. I mean, in many of the opera houses now, they have subtitles. For example, last year I opened the season in Madrid, Spain, with a new production of Aida, and they had subtitles there. We did Spanish subtitles. So they're doing this because, as Bob was saying, a composer wrote for a certain sound, and the flavor is not exactly the same. And I know we want to get more people interested in classical music and opera, but think of a symphonic work. And I'm not talking about the Beethoven Ninth Symphony. But there are no words, and you form your own words. You come up with your own interpretation. It touches your heart the way you feel it individually, and therefore it's the combination of these notes that composers wrote that produce a certain sound or certain melody that becomes individual to the listener. And the reason I will use a symphony or a piano or any instrument that is not producing words, and we listen to it and we love it. And that's why, as Verdi said, the drama is in the music. And that doesn't always necessarily mean the words in the music.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, yes.
Before the barriers were broken down, did you hear any stories of what it was like being a black person in South Africa, if you had gone in just as an ordinary visitor?
I don't know if you heard the question, did I hear of any problems that before the barriers were gone down? I certainly did, and I wouldn't even want to start to tell you some of the terrible stories that occurred. Desmond Tutu has told me many times what happened to people. I mean, how people were murdered in the most brutal fashion that I really wouldn't even want to discuss with you right now. But it was terrible what happened. I mean, the thousands of people that lost their lives in ways that are inhuman. But that's happened in other countries and other societies throughout history also, not only in South Africa.
Did they ever recover any of remains, or where did those thousands disappear to?
Well, the question, what happened to those thousand people disappeared? Of course, you know, all the people were not, many were literally burned up in their homes, but those that were not, they were buried. The families would come and take the remains of what was left sometimes and bury it. If there was a full body and they were just been shot, then they buried them. And of course, some people ended up just missing, and they don't know where they are to this day. But I'm happy that those days are over in that respect. Sure, there's still violence there, but it's more result of the economy, I think, than anything else right now. Yes.
Politically, do the whites have their own party?
I don't know if you heard, politically, do the whites have their own party? No. It's a real democracy right now in South Africa, and they hold elections and the people vote, okay? The majority of people in South Africa are people of color. But it's really, there's no white party anymore existing, no. Yes?
What other African nations have you been to, and have you sung in any of the other African nations?
Well, it's still part of Africa, but I've been to Casablanca where, who was the great actor? Humphrey Bogart, yes, he was there, but no, only there, yes. As a matter of fact, Grace Bumbry and I there are a number of ambassadors who have contacted Miss Bunbury, and she's contacted me that they would like for Grace and me to come and do some singing in some of the other black countries in South Africa, and we're planning on doing that. Well, if there are no further statements or questions, yes.
I was a little muddled by your chronology. You said you went to South Africa for the first time in 1993?
Just one moment. No, I went there in 1995. I'm sorry.
Okay, because you said it was after Nelson
Yes,
Mandela became
right.
president, but that was in 1994. So
Right.
it was
1995. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank
A 5 and a 3 are very close. Sorry about that.
you.
You say you're a mathematician?
Part-time, yeah.
Part-time. See, if only you hadn't been in math, you might not have caught that. It's like I'm happy there were no doctors here, and I was talking about the bone density. You know. Well, thank you very, very much, and. It's been my privilege and my honor to be here and share some information with you and to be on this campus of great students with great talent and great potential. And I am deeply honored to be able to be at Iowa State University in the School of Music. And we're going to work very hard to make sure that the School of Music gets as much money as the athletic department. I don't know if any of you heard,
Is that the chairman's salary you're talking about?
No. I don't know if you heard, but Sue, it just got approved today. She's getting the same salary as a male basketball coach.